Welcome to Module 7A, Paradox, Irony, and Sarcasm. My name is Miss Adams, and I will be taking you through this mini lesson for our ACP Blitz week. As I run through this video, I want you to follow along and take notes on the handout. And if I ever start talking too fast or you need time to write down, then just feel free to pause the video and then resume when you're ready to continue playing. All right, so Standard 7A, students are required to understand, make inferences, and draw conclusions about how an author's sensory language creates imagery in a literary text and provide evidence from the text to support their understanding. So the first skill we will use today is understanding paradox, irony, and sarcasm. And the second skill we will use is actually using paradox, irony, and sarcasm to make inferences and draw conclusions about its purpose in a text. So, in the boxes, you're going to fill in the blanks, and then you can include the examples. Paradox is a statement that contradicts itself or that is both true and untrue at the same time. The examples are, it's cruel to be kind, and I know one thing that I know nothing. So, it's cruel to be kind is confusing because it seems untrue. You can't be cruel and kind at the same time because they're opposites. But it can be true because sometimes we're nice to people and that's not actually really helpful for that person, right? Like if we lie to someone just because we don't want to hurt their feelings, sometimes it's better to just tell the truth. I know one thing that I know nothing. Well, if you know nothing, you can't know one thing because you know nothing. But they're saying the one thing that they know is nothing. So that's true and untrue. It's confusing, it contradicts itself, and so it makes us stop and think. Another way to look at this is with a picture. So I have an optical illusion up on the slideshow. In this optical illusion, there's both a young woman and an old woman. Well, that's contradictory because someone can't be young and old at the same time. All right? So we're going to look at the different perspectives of this image to see it. So, hat, scarf, hair. Now, if we're looking at the old woman, here is her eye, here is her nose, here is her mouth, here is her chin. All right, now let's look for the young woman. So hat, scarf, hair, ear, eyelash, nose, cheek, chin, necklace, dress. All right, so see, that's confusing because it can't be an old woman and a young woman, so which is it? All right. Now let's look at irony. Irony is when the intended meaning is different from the actual meaning. Irony tends to take place in situations, not necessarily in words. Sometimes there's verbal irony and sometimes there's situational irony. We're looking at some situational ironies for our examples. So, laughing at someone who slipped on stepping on a banana peel and then slipping yourself. Well, that's ironic because you were laughing at someone, making fun of them, and then you did the exact same thing. The CEO of a hybrid car company driving a Hummer. Well, if you own a hybrid car company, your company is making cars that are supposed to be better for the environment, but you're driving a Hummer right here, which is one of the worst cars for the environment as far as gas and exhaust. That contradicts itself. The intended purpose is making a car that's good for the environment, but the actual purpose is you're driving a Hummer, which is bad for the environment. Sarcasm. Sarcasm is very similar to irony, but it's more specifically about things that are said or how things are said. So it's when someone says the opposite of what they mean. If you're playing a game of football and you yell nice catch to someone who drops the ball or misses the pass, then you're using irony because you don't actually mean nice catch. You mean bad catch because they didn't catch it. So you're saying the opposite of what you mean. Another example would be saying great after breaking a new phone. We don't actually mean great, I broke my phone. You mean like shoot or this is awful or this is horrible. So you mean the opposite of great. That's sarcasm. All right, so why do authors use paradox, sarcasm, and irony? Well, they use it to catch the reader's attention. Because it contradicts itself and it's both true and untrue, when we read it, we kind of get stuck, or we can't get through it really quickly. We get confused. So we stop and we think about what exactly the author is trying to say. And that contradiction or that opposing idea, that makes us use our imagination to then get to the author's purpose. All right, so again, let's look at a picture just to practice. So in this picture, there's both a duck and a rabbit. If you see the duck, you see the beak here, you see the head, you see the eye. If you see the rabbit, you see the ears here, you see the head, the mouth, and then the nose, and the eye. So it can't be a duck and a rabbit at the same time. That's contradictory. It can't be two different animals. It has to be either one or the other. So let's put this in the chart. I'm going to use the box chart. If you'd like to use the Venn diagram with the circles, then that's fine too. All right? So on one side I have a duck, and on the other side I have a rabbit. The association words that I give to ducks are noisy and aggressive. The association words that I would give to a rabbit are quiet and shy. So what does this tell me? What is this image trying to show me as a viewer? What greater message am I getting from it? Well, I think about how there are two sides to every story, or people aren't just always one way. There are two or multiple sides to people, right? Sometimes people want to be social, and sometimes they want to sit at home and watch TV and just kind of hang out. Sometimes when there's an argument, one person has a specific perspective of how the situation happened, and then the other person has a perspective of how it happened. So I get the message that there are two sides to things, and it just depends on how you see it or what the situation is. Okay, so now I want you to do some deeper thinking and answer the two questions at the bottom of the page. The first question is explain what the viewer can infer about the author's message from the contrast in the optical illusion. You can use this sentence stem to answer that question. When you're done answering that question, I also want you to assess your skill in the box at the bottom of the handout. Once you have done both of those, then you can resume this video. So go ahead and pause, answer the two questions, and then press play again. Okay, welcome back. So now we're going to look at some multiple choice. The first two multiple choice questions are actually from the mock ACPs that you took last week. So one is from the regular ACP and one is from the pre-AP ACP, but we're going to look at both of them. All right? So the first one is adapted from A Raisin in the Sun, and it's a play. And the question says, in paragraphs 4 through 9, the author uses paradox to show. All right? So I'm going to go in. I'm going to look at paragraphs 4 through paragraph 9, and I'm going to figure out what is contradicting. So when I look, I see down here in paragraph 9, we have some contradicting ideas. So Travis says, when I tell mom what I want to be when I grow up, she can't, she says that sometimes she wants me to be like you, and sometimes she doesn't want me to be like you. That's contradicting. How does she want her son to be like her dad, but not be like his dad, right? So let's do this chart. You can draw it to the right of the multiple choice question. And on one side, we have that the mom doesn't want him to be, or does want him to be like his dad. And then on the other side, we have that the mom doesn't want him to be like his dad. So I think of association words. This is when your associations and your annotations come in use. So if she does want him to be like his dad, that means she's probably thankful and appreciative of the job that the dad does. Her husband brings home money, he helps support the family, so she's thankful and appreciative for that. If she doesn't want her son to be like her husband, then she probably gets frustrated and disappointed. Maybe she gets frustrated about the amount of hours or the times that he has to work. Maybe she's disappointed because she wishes he was making more money. All right? So those are the associations that we would put with that idea. So what does this tell us? What does this mean? Well, the mom probably has conflicting ideas about her husband's job. Like, she's happy that he has one because it's helping support them, but she wishes it was better, right? So now let's look at the answer choices. Walter's wife has mixed feelings about his aspirations. Well, mixed feelings matches conflicting feelings, so I'm going to go ahead and put some check marks there. Travis does not understand his mother's dreams. Well, the paradox isn't necessarily about Travis understanding his mother's dreams, it's more about his mother's conflict over what her husband does. So B is out. C, Walter does not know what to do with his life. Walter is the dad. Now, he might not know what to do with his life, but that's also not really the point of this whole paradox. And Walter isn't really talking about what he's trying to do. He's asking his son what he wants to do. So C is out. D, Travis is hesitant to recognize similarities with his father. Well, Travis isn't really hesitant because he's saying he wants to be like his father. Hesitant means like he's not sure, he's reserved, and Travis isn't really not sure. He's like, well, I want to be like you, but then I get confused and I can't make up my mind because mom tells me these two very different opposing ideas. So the answer is actually A, that Walter's wife, or mama, has mixed feelings about Walter, or her husband's aspirations. All right, let's look at that second multiple choice question. The House on Mango Street is the story that this comes from, and we're going to go ahead and see that the author is using a paradox in paragraph 11 to do something. So I'm going to go to paragraph 11. It says, I knew then that I had to have a house, a real house, something substantial and of legitimate consequence, one I could point to. But this isn't it. The house on Mango Street isn't it. For the time being, Mama says. Temporary, says Papa, but I know how these things go. All right, so I'm going to make my chart again, and I need to look at the two opposite things. So on one end, she's saying that she needs a real house, and then we have the house on Mango Street. Well, if the house on Mango Street is an actual house, then it's a real house, but she's saying it's not a real house. So let's look at that. So I think when you have something that you consider like a real house, she would be proud or satisfied. But the house on Mango Street doesn't make her feel that way. It probably makes her feel embarrassed and ashamed, just like that apartment on the third floor up here in the beginning part of the story. So what is the point? Why are we comparing something that's real to this mango house, which is obviously real? And it's probably because the house on Mango Street is an actual house, but it doesn't feel like it to the narrator because she's still ashamed of it. And a real house to her would be some place that she's not ashamed or embarrassed of. So now I'm going to go in and look at the answer choices. A says explain why the nuns were concerned for the narrator. So the nuns weren't concerned for the narrator, especially in paragraph 11. It doesn't even talk about the nuns, but the nuns were more concerned about where she was living. B says emphasizes the narrator's optimism about the house. Well, if you're optimistic, you're like hopeful and excited, and she doesn't seem like either of those towards the house on Mango Street. She's like the opposite. She's embarrassed, she's ashamed, she doesn't want anyone to know where she lives. C shows the narrator does not care what the nun thinks. Well, I think that the narrator does care, because if she didn't care, she wouldn't be so motivated to get this real house, this house that, makes her proud instead of embarrassing her. D says that highlights the narrator's insecurity and bitterness. Well, she is insecure about where she lives, right? She's not proud of it, and she's kind of bitter and upset about that she lives in this place that's kind of ugly or not really like nice looking. So she is insecure and bitter about her house, so the answer would be D. All right, so there are a couple more questions on the next page. I want you to try those on your own. All right, so the first one is Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix. Annotate main idea and associations, create a chart, and then answer the question. Then the next is the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Again, main idea, associations, draw a chart, either the circles or the boxes, and then answer the question, all right? When you're done, you can go and get your teacher to check it off for you, and then you can start your DOL, all right? Good luck. I believe in you. I know that this is a hard standard and a hard idea to really understand, but I think that you can get it. So good luck.